My name is Christy Alosio, and I am a counselor here at Healing Hearts of Indy in Indianapolis, Indiana. I do individual, marital, any kind of couple, family, and group therapy here at Healing Hearts. So today I wanted to talk about blended families. I work a lot with blended families in a lot of different scenarios. Work with the blended family itself, with the parent, step parent, and the children. I work just with the children. I work just with the couple. I'll work with ex-spouses and dealing with co-parenting. I work a lot in the area of blended families. One thing to remember about blended families is that they are difficult. Not that regular marriage and having kids is not difficult, because it is. But blended families just add an extra element because you're adding more people, more personality, more dynamics, more outside things that you can't necessarily control. Blended family, issues, definitely I see a lot of those in here. So I work with the people come in, I can work with the family itself. I sometimes work with the kids. I can work with even ex-spouses in regards to co-parenting. There's lots of different dynamics that can be worked on with blended families. So I'm not going to go through a step-by-step process of how to run a blended family. I think there's lots of experts that might have a lot of different ideas of how to do that, and they all could work really well. But I want to focus on just kind of three major tips, or three big tips that can help you deal with your blended family in whichever way you guys decide to run that blended family. So the first one is clear expectations. And I say clear expectations, and a lot of people watching this video are like, duh, like we know to have expectations is very important. Having clear expectations is really important in families that are not blended families. They're important in just relationships. They're important in any kind of parent-child relationships. But in a blended family, I feel like you need to take it even a step further. And I'm not just saying, okay, we kind of sit down and kind of talk about it, this is how we run things. I'm talking we should have very clear expectations of how families should run, how our blended family should run, how disciplining of the children works, all of that, because it will help save hurt feelings later. It will help keep children from manipulating the situation. It can help us understand how things function, and overall, it just, I think, helps keep trying to keep the hurt feelings as less as we can. So when I say clear expectations, I'm talking we sit down when we create this blended family, when this blended family starts to come together. Now, don't panic if you have already been a blended family for a while. That doesn't mean that you can't go back and start to do some of these things, but if you're somebody that's engaged or getting ready to move in with somebody that has some kids and start that dynamic, do this. Write down expectations on everything. Who's going to discipline the kids and how? What happens if the person that's going to discipline the kids is not there? What forms of discipline are appropriate? Who's going to pay for what? How do we deal with the ex-spouse, the children's parents? How do we deal, with space and rooms and all of those things? I think the more that you can spell them out, the better. And I am just a big believer that the kids need to know what these expectations are. Age appropriate, they can help with the expectations and what they should be, so they can kind of feel a part of the family and a part of merging all of this together. But if you have specific consequences for misbehavior, then it isn't the bad step parent who's punishing me or grounding me. It's no, look, here, we spelled it out. These are our expectations. This is a list, and here's the consequence if this behavior happens. So it can take a little pressure off of the step parent too if they do get involved in the disciplining at all. It also can help the biological parent feel a little better about what's happening if they're not home, as far as discipline and what's going to happen, if the child needs to be disciplined in some way. So, clear expectations, when I say very specific, very spelled out, keep in mind that doesn't mean you can't change them in the future. I mean, we're not carving them into stone here. We're just writing them down. They can be negotiated later, but they just so help, I think, a family run smoothly. And again, helping the kids get involved in kind of what that looks like, again, age appropriate, is very helpful as well. And again, it could keep them from manipulating the step parent too, when hey, no, like this is what I see as the expectation. So that would be tip number one. Tip number two is do not triangle the ex-spouse with the new spouse. And again, sounds obvious, but it happens so often, and there's lots of different ways that you can triangle somebody into the situation. So every once in a while, I get the blended family where the ex-spouse and the new spouse get along great. And we'll just use wives for this example. The ex-wife, who's the mother of the children, get along really well with the ex-husband's new wife, which would be the stepmother. And they can do child exchanges. I've actually had all three of those people in my office talking about an issue with one of the kids. Those relationships are great, and it's, can be really good for everybody all around, but unfortunately it just doesn't always turn out that way. Now that doesn't mean everybody in the opposite of that has intense hatred for each other or anything. That's not the case either. So a lot of times people are just in between. So I'm a big believer that, the ex-spouse and, the two ex-spouses should be involved in the interaction. They should be involved in the discussion. They should be involved in the drop-offs, especially at first. It should be between the two of them. Now, sometimes the new spouse has some jealousy issues over this, or is concerned of what's going on in that relationship. And if that's the case, and there's a whole lot more going on than just blended family issues, there's some trust issues going on in the new relationship that probably need to be addressed above the blended family issues, and it might help some of the blended family issues. But just, I say this in the fact that the ex-spouses have a totally different relationship. They understand each other way better than the new spouse will ever understand the ex-spouse, because they lived together, they were married, they were intimate partners, they know each other really well. There used to be warm and fuzzy feelings there. For the new spouse coming in, who's now the step-parent, there is no fuzzy feelings about that other person, and so sometimes they don't give somebody as much grace. It's easier to get more reactive. As to where the two ex-spouses, you got to remember, they have some history there together that can actually help their interaction. I know some of the probably bad stuff that might have happened through a divorce can affect it too, but they have a different type of connection, and it's their children. What I see a lot in the triangling is one of the ex-spouses who's getting remarried just vents and complains about the ex-spouse, and she did this, and she's a manipulator, and she, and then kind of gets the new spouse reactive about her, and, well, you shouldn't be treated that way, and this is blah, 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 so this is how you should respond, and this is how we should do things. And, it helps the husband in the sense of he's getting some advice, he's helping somebody to read his ex-wife and figure out how to do this. But the problem is a lot of times then eventually, once the heat of the divorce and the heat of the ending of the relationship starts to calm down, the husband kind of starts to lose his reactivity, and he's like, it's just my ex-wife, we can get along, this is okay. But the stepmom, the new wife, can't get over her reactivity about it, because again, she never had warm and fuzzy feelings about this person that isn't the mother of her children, all of these things. And so she's still kind of reactive, like, are you going to let her treat you that way? And I can't believe you're going to let her talk to you that way, when he's kind of taken a step back and is not reactive. And so what felt really good at first, to have some support and somebody giving him advice of how to deal with her, now can really make that person feel like he's stuck in the middle between these two women and their reactivity. And as much as you don't think that's going to happen, it really happens a lot. So I'm not talking about being dishonest with your new spouse of what's going on with the ex-spouse and the child's parent, but just kind of leaving those interactions, leaving the reactivity, leaving all of that in between you and your ex-spouse. Keep your new relationship about your new relationship. Don't drag all of that into the new relationship. Don't drag all that onto them. Just let the relationship be the relationship. So enjoy your new relationship, and don't drag that old stuff in, and it just creates this big triangle between the three of you that tends to be pretty negative. I think most people who involve their new spouse into some of their ex-spouse drama or conflict, so to speak, really kind of wish that they didn't in the long run. So, I would say parents, be between you. If you can't do that, get a counselor, get a third party to help you navigate how you can have some sort of relationship with that ex-spouse. Doesn't have to be friendly, but cordial. Let's figure that out. Let's help decrease your activity so that you can be great co-parents to your kids, because that's what's really important. And so the third kind of tip I have is just knowing this is going to be a tough road. Blended families are hard. There is no way around it. Again, I don't say that and saying that it can't work, it can't be great, it can't be happy, but there's going to be bumps along the road, there's going to be difficulties along the road, and don't forget that. I think sometimes if people fantasize like this new relationship feels so wonderful, it feels great, it's going to be amazing, we're going to have this wonderful connection, we're going to be this great family. And I think they're setting themselves up for some, like, to be blindsided or a little bit of disappointment when things do get bumpy. Just because a stepchild really connects with you at the beginning, that doesn't, you don't know how they're going to act with you along the different ways in their development. And, you know, as they get older, things can be totally different. And so just having in your future, being prepared, knowing, you know what, this is going to be hard and I'm okay with that. I know this isn't always going to go well, and I'm prepared for things to not be okay for a while, and we can work through that. I just feel if people aren't prepared for that, there's a lot of hurt feelings and disappointment that just adds even more difficulty into the relationship. So those are kind of my tips for, you know, blended families, and I hope you find this helpful. And I am such a big believer, get a third party, get a counselor that you trust to kind of help navigate some of this. Doing some counseling with your ex-spouse in regards to co-parenting can be priceless, and even just with your new spouse, helping kind of plan out those expectations can be really helpful too. If you want any more information on this, you can email me at Christy@healingheartsofindy.com. That's Christy, CHRISTY, at healingheartsofindy.com. Thanks for watching.